Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. Today we're covering something a little different. Most recently, of course, I've been covering various cartel videos, but I have planned on actually covering some videos in regards to war crimes and also terrorism, which is what this video will actually fall under, and the video topic is the beheading of Nick Berg. The event took place on the 7th of May in 2004, and it was at the height of the Iraq War. During this time period, there were several hostages from the US and the UK who were killed in similar fashion. All in all, the Iraq War was a complete crock of shit. It was based on lies, deceit, and as a result, thousands of innocent people were killed. How certain politicians and public officials from the UK and US are not in prison is beyond me, in all honesty. But let's talk about Nick Berg and who he was. Nick Berg grew up in West Whiteland Township, Chester County in Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia, and he was actually a practicing Jew. In terms of his educational background, which could be important for a later part of this video, Nick Berg graduated high school in 1996, and he was a student at Cornell University, but he later dropped out. He then took further classes at university in 1998 and 1999, but he never earned a college degree. In 2002, with family members, Nick Berg created the Prometheus Methods Tower service. He inspected and rebuilt communication antennas and had previously visited Kenya and Uganda on similar projects. In fact, Berg actually set up a subsidiary of his company in Kenya, so all in all, business was doing well, he was getting contracts around the globe, and yeah, you know, for a young man in his mid-20s with no college degree, he was doing very well for himself, it seems. Nick Berg first arrived in Iraq on the 21st of December 2003, and he was over there basically to try and secure a contract for his company. During this visit, Nick also went to the city of Mosul, visiting an Iraqi man who had been married to Berg's late aunts. Nick Berg left Iraq on the 1st of February 2004, under the premise that he thought he secured work, and that he would return at a later date. He then returned to Iraq on the 14th of March 2004, only to then find that the work he was promised was no longer available. Nick had intended to return home to the United States on the 30th of March 2004, but he was detained in Mosul on March 24th. His family claims that he was turned over to US officials and held for 13 days. During these 13 days, he was allegedly unable to access any legal help. At this point, FBI agents actually visited Nick's parents' house, essentially just to confirm his identity. This was on the 31st of March 2004, but he was not immediately released. When Nick wasn't released, his parents filed a suit in the federal court in Philadelphia on the 5th of April 2004, claiming that he was being held illegally. He was then released from custody. Nick claimed that he had not been mistreated during his confinement, although I would argue against that if he was not allowed legal help, but nevertheless. This is where it kind of gets a little more interesting. The US maintains that at no time was Nick Berg in coalition custody, but instead he was actually held by Iraqi forces. The Mosul police, however, deny they ever arrested Nick Berg, and Nick Berg's family has even turned over an email from the US consul stating, "I have confirmed that your son Nick is being detained by US military in Mosul." According to the Associated Press, Berg was released from custody on the 6th of April 2004. He was then advised by US officials to take a flight out of Iraq with their assistance. Berg is said to have refused this offer and travelled to Baghdad, where he stayed at the Al-Ansar hotel. His family last heard from him on the 9th of April 2004. Berg had his last contact with the US officials on the 10th of April 2004 and did not return again to his hotel after that date. Another interesting fact about this case is that Nick Berg was actually interviewed for the film Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore. Moore chose not to use the footage of this interview, but he did share it with Nick Berg's family following his death. That is definitely some lost media I'd love to see, but nevertheless, let's move on. After several days of not hearing from Nick, Nick's family became very concerned. At the time, a US State Department investigator looked into Berg's disappearance, and that inquiry produced no leads. At this point in time, naturally, Nick Berg's family were extremely concerned and extremely frustrated with what they saw as a lack of action by the US government, They also hired a private investigator and contacted both their congressional delegation and the Red Cross in search of information. To this day, it is still unclear to how Nick Berg became kidnapped. The execution of Nick Berg took place on the 7th of May, 2004. His body was then found the next day on a Baghdad overpass by a US military patrol. Nick Berg's family was informed of his death 2 days later. At the time, military sources stated publicly that Nick Berg's body showed signs of trauma, but they did not disclose that he had been decapitated. On the 11th of May 2004, the execution video of Nick Berg was released to the internet. The militant jihadist group Muntada al-Ansar posted a video on their website. The video was titled "Abu Musab al-Zarqawi slaughters an American." The video soon went viral and subsequently was ripped and uploaded to many other websites. But anyway, let's actually get into the video. Now the full video is around 5.5 minutes long. Now the version of the video that I've seen was only just over a minute long, but in the full version of a video, Nick Berg actually identifies himself and he says the following: "My name is Nick Berg. My father's name is Michael. My mother's name is Suzanne. I have a brother and a sister, David and Sarah. I live in Westchester, Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia." Now again, the version of the video that I saw was a shortened version. Basically it just cuts out the beginning and essentially just gets down to the gore. Now in the version of the video that I saw, Nick Berg was kneeling on the ground and the terrorists were behind him. They were reading out a statement, I presume in Arabic, and at that point basically it cuts to the gruesome stuff. The terrorists kind of force Nick Berg on the ground on his side, and then they immediately begin the beheading. Now I have to say, the camera quality of this particular video is very bad. So basically this video, at times, it is kind of hard to see what's going on, but it takes the terrorists around 45 seconds to complete the beheading, and at that point one of the terrorists holds the head up to the camera, he poses with the head for a little while, and then he lays down the head on Nick Berg's body. Now according to the official story, the reason for the killing was that it was a revenge attack, and this was in vengeance of the Abu Ghraib torture and prisoner abuse committed by the CIA and American soldiers. In regards to the actual video itself, and by the way there's no such thing as a nice beheading video, but this one was one of the more easier ones to watch because the camera quality was so bad that at times it was hard to make out what was going on, and you couldn't really see the visceral nature of the beheading. You couldn't see like a puddle of blood or anything like that. The most disturbing thing about this video, in my opinion, is the screams before and when they first start beheading Nick Berg. Now in life, I'm sure we've all heard somebody scream at one point or another, but there really is a big difference between, you know, just like a regular scream in comparison to a scream from somebody who's about to die. I'm sure you've all heard the phrase blood-curdling scream. That's basically what this was, you know, and to me that was the worst thing about this video. I know a lot of people out there who have watched these sort of videos in the past. For a lot of people, the sounds of the videos are actually worse than the actual gore. So if you are one of those people, this video might actually hit you. But yeah, in relation to the video itself and breaking it down, there's not really much more I can add in regards to that. However, a lot of people actually question the official narrative in regards to the death of Nick Berg. Now, I won't go too far into it, as we know how YouTube are with conspiracy theories. You know, they don't like that sort of content, but a lot of people do actually question the official narrative of the death of Nick Berg, especially in regards to who he actually was. So his official job title was that of a radio tower repairman, but a lot of people speculate that he was actually some sort of spy, possibly for Israel. Now before he first went to Iraq, he actually stayed in Israel for a long time. Some people actually say up to a year. And when he went to Iraq, it was definitely a very peculiar time to go, considering the war had just started. People also point to the fact that he was detained before this happened, allegedly by US authorities. That whole scenario to me seemed extremely fishy. The US say that they never detained Nick Berg, and that actually the Iraqi forces did, but the Berg family seems to be convinced that the US did, and that they have paperwork to prove it. So to me that whole scenario there is extremely fishy. Even the career path of Nick Berg to me seemed a bit weird, to be honest. I mean, you know, this was a guy who never earned a college degree. And by the way, that is in no means saying the guy wasn't intelligent. We can achieve great things without college degrees. But what I am saying is, he set this company up in 2002 when he was 24. And in the space of 2 years, he was getting contracts in Iraq, Kenya, Uganda, and according to a security contractor in Iraq, Nick Berg also had ties to Israel. To me, it just doesn't really add up. I honestly believe there was more to Nick Berg than meets the eye. I don't believe he is who they say he is, if that makes sense. And also, there's actually people out there who question the execution itself. So, one theory out there, or one claim, is that the audio over the video has been dubbed, and the scream in the video is actually from a woman. Now, me listening to it, I mean, to me it sounded like a man, to be completely honest. That's not to say maybe it wasn't dubbed, but the scream is definitely not from a woman, in my opinion. Another thing people point towards in this video is that maybe Nick Berg was actually dead before this beheading happened. And the reason people actually point towards that is, number one, in this video, Nick Berg was actually extremely still throughout this video. Even when the beheading was happening, I couldn't see any movement from Nick Berg. And another thing people point towards is the lack of blood during and after this beheading. A lot of people speculate that there was a lack of blood because he was already dead. Essentially, the blood wasn't pumping around his body, and when somebody dies, what you'll find is the blood will naturally settle at the lowest part of the human body, and about 6 hours after death, the blood will have coagulated, so, you know, if you were to cut that dead body, it wouldn't really bleed. And that's what a lot of people speculate in regards to this Nick Berg video. Many people believe he was already dead prior to this execution. Now, from my perspective, I'm not really sure on that. Would I be surprised if that was the case and he was already dead? Not really, but to me the video quality is just too bad for me to really have a definitive opinion on that matter. And there are numerous other discrepancies that people point out in regards to Nick Berg and the video, but I won't go into them because ultimately, if I do, I'll be here all day. And as I said earlier, YouTube don't really like conspiracy theories. You know, they're okay me sitting here talking about executions and whatnot, but when it comes to conspiracy theories, that's when they slam their foot down, so I'll leave it there. But ultimately, I really believe there's a lot more to this story than what we've been told, and I believe there's a lot more to Nick Berg than meets the eye. But what about you guys? I know a lot of you guys are clued up to cases like this. Do you guys have any alternative theories, or do you believe the official narrative? I'll be very interested to hear your opinion. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Something a little bit different, I guess. It's definitely a break away from the regular cartel videos. I wanted to cover a couple of war crime cases or terrorism cases, so more than likely next it will be the Dagestan massacre. I know I keep on fucking saying that, but I will get around to doing that video, rest assured. And also in the near future, I will actually do a live stream Q&A, so basically I can get to know you guys a little bit better. You know, I've not spoken to you guys live yet, and I do plan on doing that, but that will be in the near future, so look out for that as well. Anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, stay safe, and I will catch you on the next one.